If money is the body of retirement, then companionship is its soul. But for many American seniors, retirement is a silent house. After his wife of 42 years, Martha, passed away, 72-year-old James found himself living in a world of echoes. His children lived in different states, busy with their own lives. They called on Sundays, but what about the other 6 days? The most dangerous thing for a senior's bank account isn't a hacker, it's a lonely heart. Scammers know this. They don't look for greedy people, they look for people who just want someone to say good morning to them. This is the story of how James lost $250,000, not to a thief, but to a ghost he thought he loved. It started on a Facebook group for classic car enthusiasts. A woman named Elena commented on a photo of James's 1967 Mustang. She was beautiful, elegant, and according to her profile, a widow herself living in Florida. James was hesitant at first, but Elena was persistent. She didn't ask for money. She asked about his life. She asked about Martha. She listened. For 3 months, they messaged every day. James began to wake up early just to see if Elena had sent a good morning text. He felt young again. He felt seen. Elena told him she was a successful interior designer, but her funds were temporarily tied up in an international project in Dubai. She sent him photos of the project, luxurious apartments, and gold-plated fixtures. James was smart, a retired engineer, but his emotional brain had taken the wheel, and his logical brain was locked in the trunk. Then came the first request. It wasn't a lot, just $5,000 to help pay for a customs fee so she could return to the States and finally meet James in person. James sent it within the hour. The thought of finally holding her hand made the money seem insignificant. But then a crisis hit. Elena claimed the Dubai authorities had frozen her accounts. If she didn't pay $50,000 in legal taxes, she would be jailed. She sent him official-looking documents. She cried on the phone, a soft, desperate sob that broke James's heart. "You're the only one I can trust, James," she whispered. Over the next 4 months, $5,000 became $20,000. $20,000 became $100,000. James began dipping into his home equity line of credit. He was investing in their future, Elena told him. She promised that once her Dubai project was released, they would have millions and live together in a beach house. James was no longer just a man in love. He was a man committed to a fantasy he couldn't afford to admit was a lie. The end came on a Tuesday. James had just sent the last of his savings, another $75,000, to cover Elena's flight and medical insurance. He drove to the airport in Chicago, clutching a bouquet of Martha's favorite flowers, waiting for a woman who didn't exist. He waited for 6 hours. He called Elena. The number was disconnected. He checked her Facebook profile. It was gone. Deleted. In that terminal, surrounded by happy families, James finally felt the full weight of the silence. He went to the police, but the trail led to a server in West Africa and a bank in Eastern Europe. The money was gone, but the emotional damage was worse. James didn't just lose his house, he lost his ability to trust the world. He fell into a deep depression, feeling like a fool at 72. But James's story is a reminder to all of us. Scammers don't steal your money, they steal your hope. And in the digital age, a friend you've never met is a risk you can't afford to take.
They say that money can't buy happiness. But for a senior living on a fixed income, money buys something much more precious: safety. The safety to know you won't be evicted. The safety to know you can afford your heart medication, and the safety to know you aren't a burden to your children. But what happens when that safety vanishes overnight? Not because of a stock market crash or a natural disaster, but because of a hand you shook in friendship. Today, we are diving deep into the story of Margaret, a woman who lost $400,000 to a man she considered a brother in faith. This is a story about the Affinity Trap, the most dangerous weapon used against seniors in America today. Margaret was 68 years old, a retired English teacher from a quiet town in Ohio. For 35 years, she stood in front of a chalkboard, grading essays and helping teenagers find their voices. She wasn't wealthy, but she was disciplined. Every month, she put away a portion of her paycheck into her 401k. By the time she retired, she had saved $400,000. To Margaret, that wasn't just a number. It was 35 years of missed vacations, 35 years of driving an older car, and 35 years of sacrifice. She had a routine. Every Sunday, she went to the Grace Community Church. She baked pies for the bake sales. She was the heart of her community. And that's where she met David. David was everything a good man was supposed to be. He was the first to offer a seat, the first to pray for the sick, and a successful independent financial advisor. For 10 years, they shared coffee after service. Margaret trusted David with her prayers. She never imagined she shouldn't trust him with her life savings. One afternoon, David sat Margaret down. He told her, "Margaret, I see how hard you worked, but the bank is giving you nothing in interest. Inflation is eating your savings alive. I have a private fund, exclusive only to our church members, that pays a guaranteed 12% return. It's low risk because we invest in local real estate. I want to make sure you're taken care of in your 80s. Margaret hesitated. She was a cautious woman, but then she saw her friends, people she'd known for decades, getting checks. They bought new cars. They went on cruises. It's a psychological phenomenon called social proof. If everyone I trust is doing it, it must be safe, right? She started with $100,000. A month later, a check for $1,000 arrived in her mailbox. She felt a rush of relief. David was right, she thought. For the first time in years, she didn't feel the weight of financial anxiety. Over the next 6 months, she moved the remaining $300,000, her entire life's work, into David's fund. She felt like she had finally won the game of life. The first red flag was a delay. David sent an email saying the system was being upgraded. Then the checks got smaller. Then they stopped. Margaret called David. No answer. She went to his office. The door was locked and a for lease sign was in the window. The truth came out in a town hall, packed with weeping seniors. David was running a Ponzi scheme. There was no real estate. There was no fund. He was simply taking Margaret's money to pay the people who joined before her, while pocketing millions for his own luxury lifestyle. At 68, the woman who spent her life teaching children how to succeed was standing in a food bank line. The $400,000 was gone. The house she loved was sold to pay the taxes she owed. Margaret's story is a tragedy, but it's also a warning. The person most likely to rob you isn't a stranger. It's the person who knows exactly which buttons to push to make you feel safe.
Friday night in Rose's kitchen was, as usual, a battlefield. The oven hummed with the smell of a frozen lasagna, and the living room was a chaotic symphony of cartoon theme songs and toddlers screaming for more juice. Sarah, Rose's daughter, burst through the door, dropped her laptop bag with a heavy thud, and collapsed onto a sofa buried under stuffed animals. "Mom, today was brutal," Sarah sighed, not looking up. "I've got a massive deadline on Monday. Can you take the kids early tomorrow morning? I really need to sleep in and then head to the office." Rose stood by the counter, her hand hovering over a stack of ceramic plates. Usually, the words, "Of course, honey, don't worry," would have slid out of her mouth like a reflex. But tonight, there was a heavy piece of paper tucked in her apron pocket, a note she had spent 3 sleepless nights writing and rewriting. Rose pulled out a chair and sat down. She didn't start the dishes, she didn't pick up the stray socks on the floor. She simply said, "Sarah, Jason, please, come sit. I have something to say." The tone of her voice was unfamiliar, cold yet vibrating with a hidden strength. Jason, her son-in-law, put down his phone and walked over, sensing the sudden shift in the room's gravity. The television noise seemed to fade into a dull hum as a heavy silence settled over the dinner table. "I'm going on strike," Rose began. Her voice trembled slightly, but her eyes remained fixed. "Strike?" Jason chuckled nervously. "What do you mean, Mom? Is this about the laundry? I told you I'd help with that." Rose pulled the crumpled note from her pocket and smoothed it on the table. "Starting tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. and every Saturday after that, I am no longer Grandma or the helper. I am Rose. I am going to leave this house. I will turn off my phone, and I will not be back until Sunday morning. You will be the ones to make the oatmeal. You will be the ones to handle the tantrums. You will be the parents." Sarah's face flushed with a mixture of confusion and hurt. "Mom, where is this coming from? Did I do something wrong? We had plans to go to the mall tomorrow. I made hair appointments because I thought you were watching the kids. You can't just quit." Rose felt a sharp pang of guilt in her chest, the familiar urge to apologize and take it all back. But she thought of the mirror. She thought of the ghost she had become. "Sarah, it's not your fault. It's mine," Rose said firmly. "It's my fault for pretending that sacrificing my entire retirement was my only joy. For 3 years, have you asked how my knees feel? Have you noticed that my favorite books are covered in dust? I am not a free childcare service provided by the universe. I am a human being who is running out of time." "But Mom, we're struggling too," Sarah rose her voice, cracking with frustration. "We work 50 hours a week. If you don't help us, our whole lives fall apart. Is it really such a big deal to help your own family?" Rose took a long, slow breath. This was the moment every senior fears, being called selfish by the people they love most. "If your life falls apart because I take one day for myself, then your life is built on a foundation that is unfair to me, Sarah. Me going to the pool or sitting on a park bench isn't an act of war against you, Sarah. It's an act of survival for me. I can't love these children the way they deserve if I am drowning in resentment and exhaustion. I am reclaiming my soul so that when I am with them, I can actually be present." Jason put a hand on Sarah's shoulder, finally recognizing the wall they had hit. Rose stood up, her legs feeling lighter than they had in years. She headed toward her bedroom, leaving the note on the table like a treaty. 8 a.m. tomorrow, Rose said over her shoulder. "I'll be walking out that front door. Whatever happens after that, the noise, the mess, the schedules, is yours to handle. Good night." Inside her room, Rose locked the door and sat on the edge of her bed. Her heart was hammering against her ribs. She had spent a lifetime being the good mother and the selfless grandmother. This was her revolution. She packed a small bag, an old swimsuit, a pair of sunglasses, and a book of poetry she hadn't touched since the grandbabies were born. In the living room, she could hear the hushed, urgent arguing of her daughter and son-in-law. For the first time, she didn't rush out to mediate. She looked at the moon through her window and whispered to herself, "Well done, Rose, you've earned this." A small, triumphant smile played on her lips. It was the smile of someone who had just found a key to a door they thought was locked forever.